All right, here we go.
Coming back on the air.
Johnny?
You're still afraid.
I'm not afraid.
There wasn't a sign of life left.
We've got to do something.
Why don't you just keep calm?
You're telling us we gotta risk our lives just because somebody might need help.
Yeah, something like that. They dragged you out there and beat those things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Haven't you had enough?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Well, it doesn't get any more real. The Nightcast mobile unit has returned, and I'm in the cemetery. You guys ever seen this place before? Do you know much about it?
No, what are we doing?
We're on.
Okay. Well, Gary's over in the Heaven City Cemetery that most
As
people
we
know
can
about,
see.
but it never gets tired seeing it.
Unfortunately, it's the first time. I'm gonna switch now to me. Unfortunately, it's one of the first times I've ever been up here that there's not a fan up here. I'm just about every time I come up here, I run into somebody. So that's a pretty good record. Well,
And
here
it's
we
8
are.
o'clock and it's still light.
It's 8 o'clock and it's still light out here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens more toward 9. I'm going to just slowly get darker and darker and darker and fade out. And that's probably the best way for me to go anyway. But anyway, we should talk about what we're talking about tonight, and that's basically the launch of this whole new show called Night Chat.
Nightcast.
Why do I keep saying chat? We got to change the name to Night Chat.
Everybody already beat each other up settling on Nightcast. You can't.
And I'm the only one that can't remember it. Nightcast. I'll get it by the next time. I promise I'll never call it Night Chat again. So anyway, yes, Nightcast is our way of kind of talking to you guys about everything that's going on, and as Jim will start to bring up, and we'll talk about tonight's show was really kind of where we started from, what we call the new Night of the Living Dead. And so we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about, you know, other things that we have going on. We got a ton of stuff going on. Our guest today is a guy that's very interesting. Um, and we can get into that and talk about that, but he's from Stryker Entertainment. And by the time we get to him, you'll know exactly why we've invited him to be on this show. So that's it. What you want to just, we've decided the time, I guess, for this would be the MoMA restoration. So,
Yeah, well, the new, it's not so much the new Night of the Living Dead as it's the new leg of Night of the Living Dead's history, which everybody is here for. If you're a fan and you've been following everything that's been going on with Night of the Living Dead and the the events and the cast appearances, you're basically involved in this leg of the film's history, and it's only going to get better from there. And that's why we have the guest on that we have from Stryker Entertainment. But we'll get to that in a second. For those joining us for the first time, I'm Jim Cirronella. You guys probably know Gary Streiner. We're the two directors, the acting directors of Image 10 Incorporated, handles all things related to Night of the Living Dead. And this is the return. We've been doing a podcast for probably about, 4 years? But
It's been a while.
It's been off and on, and so this is the relaunch of the podcast, and we have a good team of people getting it off the ground, so we can do it more on a more consistent schedule. So right now we're planning every 2 weeks we will have a new podcast for you, mostly live. If we do decide to do a pre-recorded one for whatever reason, we will post about that. But just an effort to make keep a more consistent schedule with the official Night of the Living Dead podcast, and hopefully do all the same things that we did before, but just on a much more professional level,
And better,
so it's more
and better. I
enjoyable
mean,
for everybody.
it's going to be, we're taking this show seriously now. We really have a team of 5 people, 6 people actually working on it, and working on other things as well. But you've started to see various promos coming up, which I hope you enjoy, and I hope you like, and do everything and share whenever you possibly can, because we have an excellent editor who's putting these pieces together, and it's all I guess when you look at Night of the Living Dead, it kind of we started off with a puzzle in a box, and now we've got the whole border done for sure. We're starting to fill in the middle pieces as to what the actual picture of what we're all about right now. So and again, we hope these will always be on YouTube after, so you will be able to have a chance to see them later and all that sort of stuff. So all the normal stuff. Without ado, we should get into the meat.
I just want to give a shout out to the few people I see posting comments. John Scolari, of course, has done many of these with me, and Will Phelps.
Hi, Will.
A faithful viewer, as well as Tony Markland. We haven't seen him in a while from Australia, so he's staying up late, isn't he? In order to catch.
Well,
this.
I'll tell you what. He flew to Evans City to be here to have his wedding here. He got remarried here, and so he's dedicated. He came all the way from Australia just to be in Evans City so that he could celebrate. I think that was 2013. I think that was the year that he was here when George was here. Or right. No, I mean George was here in 14.
No, maybe 13.
He was here 13. I'm really, the older I get, I have no sense of chronology. I'm like
I can't remember that stuff either, and which is ironic because I'm asking people remember the shooting of the film from what is it now, 56 years ago.
Yeah.
But so it's great that Tony's able to tune in. We have Tim Lovejoy, Corey Kitterman, Daz, part of our team. John Scolari is saying 14, so I guess that's correct, 2014. And also behind the scenes is
Joe. At least there's some cells still right in my brain.
There you go. And behind the scenes we have Joe. He's the one running the board tonight for us.
Joe Senna has become a pretty major part of our reorganization here, and you know, we kind of turned a corner in 2003. At least that's the way I looked at it. And what happened in 2003 was Image 10 and Night of the Living Dead as their property kind of grew out of being a mom and pop shop type organization. And it had to grow out of that. As anybody knows, in order to grow, you've got to expand your reach. We're expanding our reach with Nightcast. I just wanted to think twice. Um, and help be part of that, spreading that reach and getting it out farther. We're doing all kinds of things. So we want you to actually meet those people somewhere along the line too. Of course, Daz, you know really well, but we got, you know, we have all these now people that have joined the club, and like I said, Chris Meidel is a long time. He started editing back in the days when MTV actually showed music videos. So he's been editing and doing promo stuff like this. And now, I mean, he's doing all kinds of stuff. He edits political commercials and all sorts of things like that. So we're a professional team now. And I guess that's what I was trying to say. We kind of went from a mom and pop to becoming a full on corporation. And you'll see as we go along with this show, and you'll see as we go along with future shows, what all that actually means. And you know, the bottom line is we are hoping that we're doing it for you, because we're certainly not just doing it for ourselves. And so it's going to be good to hear your feedback. You know, I'd like to get this all going again. You know, and a lot of it is my fault. When I was doing the Living Dead Fest, you know, I spent a good, well, a minimum of 6 hours a day to 12, 15 hours a day on Facebook, just keeping information going and keeping all that up. Well, we kind of ran out with that, and then we started to have to become a company and spending much more time talking to lawyers and talking to, you know, various people about doing licensing agreements. We basically can come here tonight and talk to you and bring you new stuff and bring you new posters and t-shirts, and you have no idea what else we'll be mentioning in the near future. We can't quite say anything yet until the licensees you know, are ready to announce things, but we got several big ones. And yeah, that's it. We're just trying to get more professional, trying to get better. Each of these shows, you'll see, get a little tighter and a little better as we get a little more practice. But the biggest reason we do all this is to get the real information about Night of the Living Dead out to the public. That's if we had a mission statement, I think Jim would agree. It would be, you know, wrong all or right all the wrong, just ridiculous thoughts about Night of the Living Dead. We've been able to eliminate a lot of them, but a lot of them still linger out there. And the new stuff. I mean, we've got we have another John involved that's Jim can talk about more detail, is going nuts. The man's out of his mind, frankly. He he one of the things that he did that I like to tell as a story is he was obsessed by knowing the shooting days, what you know, what was particularly with Russ, and when did groups of things get shot at the same time. And this was back when he first started. This was like one of his this is one like of his first crazy missions. But he could tell the day of shooting by how the knot was tied in Russ's tie. So we've got somebody that's digging at this with that kind of detail, and it works. You just say, oh, okay, well, it's tied that way. That's the day that these things were shot. And so that goes on and on and on. But I'll shut up and let Jim talk a bit.
If you've been following the Night of the Living Dead page, the Night of the Living Dead group on Facebook, then you've seen what Gary's talking about, which is the work of the research and compilation of a lot of information by John Vullo to find all the people that were never identified in the film, and he's gotten just about all of them, as much as you can. So that's going to become a series of releasing those names and trying to put it out in an organized way so that it's not overwhelming, and so people really get to see who was involved in the production, and kind of spotlight those individuals a little bit, give them a little bit of notice. So, but we're going to get to that. First, you had mentioned 2003. I think you meant 2023. I didn't know you in 2003, but basically, as you're saying, in 2023, things have really picked up in terms of Night of the Living Dead and the organizations that are involved. But I wanted to go back to about 2016 when
the premiere.
Well, before that, even, and just briefly hit upon all the, this is about the others that have been brought in, the other entities that have brought their expertise to promoting this film and elevating it above, just being this kind of little grainy black and white horror movie from the 60s. But I've always said Night of the Living Dead is, it's at least the greatest American movie ever made. And now people are starting to come around to my way of thinking about that. So, but it's the effort of a lot of people and a lot of organizations. And the ones that we want to start with were basically these folks. This is probably the inflection point, the launch of Night of the Living Dead being taken seriously as more than just a horror film. And
the music.
Yes.
Yeah, the Museum of Modern Art did exactly that. It
Right.
made Night of the Living Dead art, quantifiably. They don't just take weird, obscure things. They considered this art. So if the Museum of Modern Art can consider it art, I think the rest of the world started to look at it a little bit differently.
Well, they, I think the Museum of Modern Art, coming into the picture in 2016, was in its own way full circle, because as we had discussed before, the Museum of Modern Art actually inducted Night of the Living Dead early on in the early 70s.
Yeah,
as an important film. And, it was part of a series that played there, or, that was screened at the museum, and it became part of their collection. But jump ahead to 2016, where the materials that we had gathered, the original, work print and the original negative and all the stuff that was, hand edited by George, and the negative that was conformed by you and John Russo, just getting all of that into the correct hands, that was a big deal. And but then,
well, that just to go back, a step, is that was the original impetus. The original impetus was just to get those materials into proper storage, so that they weren't going to deteriorate and basically turn into dust in the cans. And then once we started the relationship with them, and they saw for firsthand what the condition of those elements were, they were the ones that then brought up not only they do two things. They do preservation and they do restoration. And so once they saw that these materials were worthy, they asked about the possibility of doing restoration. So that we of course said yes, and that's that. I won't jump ahead of your.
I mean,
things,
well,
I just want to add those points.
Yeah, it's an important point. I always got the feeling from the folks at the Museum of Modern Art, including Katie Streiner, who probably spearheaded the entire thing. She was the first person that you spoke with, and she basically handled it from beginning to
Right.
end of the film,
And
being
still
restored.
does, and still
does. I always got the feeling that, well, they're not mind readers, but they were very much into bringing this film in and seeing it through to, where it eventually went, which was a full-blown restoration. And then, and so luckily the materials were, there was enough there that they could work with, and including, finding a lot of original audio. And they brought in the folks from the Film Foundation, which would be Margaret Bodie was your contact there. And, very similar, they had very similar ideas, and saw the same importance to preserving this movie. And the Film Foundation are the ones that arranged for, eventually settled on the George Lucas Family Trust and the Celeste Bartos Fund for Film Preservation to actually provide the funding to have the 4K restoration done. And that gave Image 10 an amazing asset to move forward with, that we were able to go to these people, Janus Films. And
well, it was even, we didn't even go to them. It was whenever Katie Streiner said they would be interested in, doing the preservation, I said, well, what does that do for ownership rights? I mean, what do you have a copyright on it, or who has the copyright? She said, no, it's your film, and it will be copywritten to you just as it should be. And then I said, well, I mean, for instance, what if we went to Criterion? Could we actually have them produce at that time a Blu-ray? And she said, absolutely. And she said, as a matter of fact, our Raj Roy, who's the head of our department here, is very good friends with Peter Becker. Do you mind if we make an introduction? So these are the things that people die to know. I couldn't even find Peter Becker's, how to get a hold of Peter Becker. He's the top of Criterion. And so that I think, again, what Jim is trying to bring out here, this began this role of top-notch people. The Museum of Modern Art doesn't do things halfway, and so they use people like Cineric, who the people that did the film restoration, and audio mechanics out in Burbank. But these are top people. These are the top people in doing restoration work. And so now all of a sudden, this, what people used to call this little dingy, black and white movie, is now all of a sudden the number one priority at an organization like MoMA. And so, okay. So anyway, that's how the ball got rolling, because MoMA touched it and they didn't mind spreading the word.
So Janus Films, for those that don't know, is the parent company of, what is the Criterion Collection. And it's always been our goal to get the film to a company like the Criterion Collection, because it has a lot more longevity in a film like Night of the Living Dead that had legal issues surrounding it, it's important that it's always available and there's always a great version for people to buy or have access to. And thankfully, the interest and the motivation and the importance of this film was carried over to Janus Films and Criterion, and they did a great job of releasing it, and
continue to do a great job.
Continue to do a good job, but not only, again, we were concerned that if it goes to, you have this great restored version of the film that probably, it could have possibly been done through a home video company. That's fine, but the level that it was restored, of the level of the high quality of people working on it, because it was attached with MoMA and the Film Foundation and funded by George Lucas, the George Lucas Trust, and the Celeste Bartos Fund for Preservation. It just brought in, again, a high level of distributor like Criterion, and which was, to us was very important. And even at that time, we couldn't see the future that this would go through Criterion, would go all over the world and also find its home on streaming, which probably at this point is even more important. Having it legitimately streamed on major streaming channels is probably, is something that we couldn't foresee at the time, but has become very important to the longevity of Night of the Living Dead, getting it out in front of like other people, or a younger audience, and so that's what happened with that. And currently, Night of the Living Dead, besides being released by Criterion in the UK and the USA, and I'm not sure what are their other territories they're handling. Obviously, Canada. I think it's Canada, the USA.
Well, Canada and the UK and Ireland. Well, they've got Japan, they've got Italy, they've got France.
They were able to get it out there for us to Japan, at our request, to sub-license and handle the sub-licensing for us. Because what do we know about sub-licensing this movie?
What do we know about licensing?
Yeah, right. So
speaking of which, I don't mean to interrupt, but just to say we were hoping to bring our guest on like now. So I don't know how much more you have, but maybe we should go to him and come back to this.
I'm watching the time. We're gonna.
Okay. All right.
So these are examples of the, it went from Blu-ray and DVD quickly to 4K UHD in Japan. The Japan release is on the right, the left side. On the right side is the Germany release from Art House, and there were several other companies involved. Play-On. The Japanese release was Fieldworks, as well as HappyNet, which is a big distributor in Japan, and also Studio Canal, which handled, I believe, maybe Studio Canal handled there was several big companies involved.
France, right? Studio
but Canal. I believe the France version was piggybacked on that German version. You could see that's probably the deluxe set. It's like thick like a brick. You could probably hurt somebody badly with it. That's how big it is. But just a fantastic job. And Italy as well. Italy, I believe, did their own release. But just stellar.
Hey, look who's
quality.
Here. Hey, fellas, thanks for having me. I have to be honest, after seeing that box set, do we have that asset of Barbara somewhere? That is such a awesome image.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. That was originally done by a
That's
French
very
artist.
interesting thing.
Yeah, a French artist who goes by the pseudonym Elvis is Dead. I forget the gentleman's name, but it was put before us. I've been gunning for this poor guy because that was previously unlicensed, and I see red when that happens. And but both companies, I think it was Studio Canal first. The way this happened was the Japanese distribution license was first, and they wanted to release a 4K disc, a 4K UHD, which Criterion hadn't released yet. Criterion said, well, you have to wait. We're going to be doing that in about a year. And then after that, you can release your disc. You can release it in that format. So the Japanese company, Fieldworks, took it upon themselves to actually release Night of the Living Dead, give it its first theatrical screening across the country. When we heard the news, they're going to, during this downtime, they're going to actually put it in theaters. We were thinking, well, maybe, like a theater or two in Tokyo or something. I've seen foreign films in Tokyo. It's, usually just one or two theaters. And, but lo and behold, they did like 40 theaters all across Japan, all in the different territories. And they did the whole, the promotion and the marketing of it was just top notch. They completely understood it. They designed a new poster, which I don't have the artwork for here. But they did a fantastic job. And then in the meantime, the folks, it was at Studio Canal, asked to use that artwork. And I said, well, that's not licensed. Could you use something else? And they said, well, we really want to license it. So we really want to use it. So we're going to get the artist to contact you. So the artist contacted us and said, I'm sorry. And okay, no problem. And we worked out a deal so that they could use it. And then by that time, it was Fieldworks could prepare their release. And they said, hey, we like that artwork. So then they wanted to use it. I happen to like the, if you look at the, just to the, on the left side there, that's that original artwork they used, which is it's the second Blu-ray case or 4K case.
Oh yeah, that looks great.
I think that's really,
can we not be rude and introduce our guest?
But so we jump ahead here. Well, we're leaving out a few things, but
well, no, just introduce him. He's in the game now.
Well, about a year ago, Image 10 began working with a licensing agent, Stryker Entertainment, and this is Austin Case from Stryker. What is your title there, Austin? Your quality assurance?
I think the full title is Director of Brand Assurance.
Director of Brand Assurance.
Will you describe, please, to me what that means?
It's a big fancy term for I approve licensed submissions. So honestly, it was very funny. I remember when this came across Russell's desk, and I rarely jump in with my 2 cents on what we bring in, what we represent. But he was like, oh yeah, we have some interest with Night of the Living Dead. And I was like, I want that, and I want to work on it. Not only do I want us to get it, I want to be the person that has their hands on it, because I mean, I'm sure, like everyone knows, it's just to work on this property, being just a film nerd and a big horror fan, it was hard to pass up. You know what I mean?
Well, and what would you say was the when it was discussed internally, what would you say was the motivated everybody to want to bring this property in?
I mean, not to be so self-congratulatory here, but it stands on its own 2 legs. It's such an iconic movie that even folks who aren't ardent horror fans, they know the name when they hear it, and most likely they've seen it. You know what I mean? Like I remember being out here. I think it was last year. The New Beverly Cinema out here did a 35 millimeter, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the restored version. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
So you got to see what we haven't yet, which is just quickly when that restoration was being done back then with the Museum of Modern Art and Katie Trainer spearheading all that. There was some talk about doing a 35 millimeter film out, and Gary said, hey, we should get a 35 film print, and so Image 10 did, and just kind of tucked it away. I was gonna get one just for my home, and then realized that's a real stupid idea because I don't have a 35 millimeter projector. So it would just sit here like everything else does. So common sense prevailed there. But Image 10 had this 35 millimeter print. I believe the Museum of Modern Art has one as well, right, Gary?
Yeah.
So those are the two prints that exist of the 4K.
They're the only two that exist.
Restored version.
I'm very proud of seeing it.
And last year Gary arranged for several theaters for it to kind of truck around the country.
There's only a few theaters that we would allow to show it.
Yeah.
It had to be absolutely the cream. And obviously where you saw it it doesn't get much better than there, but it was also at the Music Box in Chicago, and it was at the Paramount in Portland. These are all like classically, their projectionists have won awards, for projecting.
And the impetus of doing that was because you've got after having this print for a good five years or so, you got it into the hands of what do you technically call one of those companies? They're like they're not really an archivist, but you got it into the hands of a company that will store the print and then send it out.
And like the crowd there, it was truly like it kind of rang true, just because I feel like the movie still works now. You know what I mean? Like it's not just a dated like relic. It's like sure, the crowd may have been filled with fans, but like it was very tense. It still had those tenets that it did back when it was shown. It's a juggernaut.
Well, it was all of those screenings were sold out, right? I mean, it wasn't dozens of screenings. It was
every screening,
but every screening was sold out.
Every screening was sold out.
Unfortunately, we weren't among the people that got to see it. We just had to sit back and say,
next year,
enjoy it, everybody. Yeah, next year. It wasn't playing, and we couldn't get it in New York, so that was that.
It really was fantastic because it was.
I'm guessing this year, the same people, we're going to get them back in those same theaters again, around Halloween season, I'm sure. So that was a little bonus. Well, it's. I won't get into a whole other thing because let's talk more about the subjects we're on. But the thing
we like that. We like when that happens, though, right? It's going out and doing its thing. Yeah, well, we're like, oh wow, look at that! Exactly. Look what happened over there.
But sometimes, that's it. You're looking for ways of, we just constantly call it expanding our universe, and how do we expand our universe? And that started off really was like one of the beginnings of the thoughts, of taking this footage and getting it into the proper hands, getting a restoration done. This was the dream come true. It just, but the way it happened was just because there was a need, there was a need to get it into proper storage. And that started the whole ball rolling, and And then all of a sudden it just like boom, 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 boom. All these doors started opening up because of just like you, Austin, people want to be a part of it. People want to, they want to say, hey, yeah, oh yeah, I did blah 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 for that. That's the energy that this film has still after 56 years.
Oh yeah.
And it will and it's only getting stronger now, and it's not going to go away. And more and more and more people. I mean, you're just, although we're coming up close to our 1 year anniversary with Stryker, probably the first 4 or 5 months, it was just kind of like bumping into one another, not wondering,
getting to know each other.
What's going to happen next,
Right.
But we're not even like a year into actual pounding the bricks, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's it, exactly what it was. We didn't know how to get to a Stryker. We happened to have a really good, relationship with a guy by the name of Jeff Skinner at Come On. And in an early conversation with Jeff, he just said, hey, would you guys at all interested in a licensing agent? And we thought, he's talking about somebody that works out of their house, and
I realize I am taking this call out of my house.
there was like a 2 year, well, we only work out of except for Gary, who works out of the cemetery.
I work out of my fucking truck. Excuse my language.
Oh my God. Okay. So anyway, we are now no longer a PG podcast. Sorry, but there was like a 2 year gap between that conversation, and I didn't get into. We ran out of time leading up to Austin, but I wanted to talk about that came out of a not good situation. We were basically at legal odds with Come On, and we were able to turn it around once we got rid of the antagonist in the situation. And once speaking to Jeff Skinner, he's a great guy, and said, he basically saw things the same way and said, hey, let's do this game, together. And it's been a great relationship. And after he had mentioned that, I think it was about 2 years in between, we came back and said, hey, do you have that you have any ideas of that
he was going to go away and check, and it was just one of those things that it just didn't happen. And I said, remember when you mentioned, did that just go away? And he goes, oh no. And the next
first try is
the next day
Russell.
we're getting a call from Russell, let's have a talk. And that was it. We had a great talk. Russell is Russell Binder, who's the head of that little organization, Stryker. It just got it. Talk about people that get it, And I mean, we were on a conference call, and we got off the conference call, and I immediately, of course, dialed Jim and say, is this for real? I mean, do we just really have this conversation? Are we in that arena? This is great. And so anyway,
but we've always said it's not us, it's the movie. Night of the Living Dead opens the
don't sell yourself short.
But again, Night of the Living Dead opens the doors, and you have to be able to then get yourself through the door. But the title is is just very well known, and so you have to do something with that. But again, first try. It's not like we bopped around to licensing agent. From licensing agent to licensing agent disappointed.
And one other point to that, Jim, is what is it now? It's you think that, and a lot of people thought, and we went through a lot of licensees that thought, oh, all I need to do is put Night of the Living Dead on anything I have, and it's just going to sell like hotcakes. That's not the truth.
Right.
everything has to have a plan. Everything has to have a center of focus, and that's one of the things that is so refreshing about Stryker and working with these people, is because they invented it, in a sort of way, and they know when they have to push and when they have to back off, and it's just been such a wonderful relationship. Um, it's like talking to your friends,
Yeah. Oh, I
Um,
love that.
I've thrown
uh,
just the from Stryker Entertainment's page, the properties that they manage, and you can see they are not schlubs. They have a lot of important titles there,
Oh, we
and
appreciate
we're
that.
very happy that
I'm
Night of the
glad.
Living Dead.
I'm glad we at least got top right corner.
Well, no, and
You
it's like
know.
it's
When
also
you
one of
click on
those
it, though,
things.
there's nothing. So I don't know if
No,
that's
but I
maybe.
think
Just
we
the
have
one
the
scene.
inside to get that fixed, right? Right,
Oh
Austin?
yeah. But that's like, it's also, you have to have people that actually believe in the property too. Like folks that don't just want to like slap a logo on a shirt and just push it out the door. If you actually have folks on board that, one, have even seen the movie, and two, actually
Right.
enjoy it brings it together more, because I don't want to tread on anything that would make Night of the Living Dead look bad, or like something that's like, wow, this is really outside of like what Night of the Living Dead like means or stands for,
Right.
represents, all of that stuff. So it's,
we're aware of all the other zombie Living Dead related properties, and
sure.
Night of the Living Dead is its own thing. And why would you want to be like these other ones? I
Yes.
mean, you guys have in there, Day of the Dead. You have, you handle some of the Walking Dead
Yeah.
licensing. You would not want those things to, kind of crisscross. They all have their own look, their own
Yeah.
style, and we just concentrate on trying to maintain the style and the integrity of this film.
Yeah, and it's also finding the right people by like way of licensees that also get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
People who aren't in for it just for the money grab, but people who want to make, either whether it be collectibles, apparel or whatever, just folks who believe in the not even believe in the property. It's already proven itself, but folks who have like seen it and get it. You know what I mean? Because that takes the special know-how of like finding the relationship of who can carry that torch. You know what I mean? Who can make sure that fans of Night of the Living Dead don't see something come out and they roll their eyes at it, because once they do that, we've lost them all.
Well, to that point, when so we had criteria. Our next licensee was was Fright Rags, and we got to meet probably one of the most dedicated, wonderful owners of a company ever. And Ben Scrivens is just exactly that human being you're talking about.
Oh, Ben's
And
amazing.
yeah, and so there again, that was another big, to us at the time. Holy crap, getting a contract with Fright Rags,
Yeah.
I mean, that was
whoa.
also, and not only getting the contract with Fright Rags, but what followed it, which was just which really elevated the property just in what Fright Rags does, and they handle tons of licenses.
Yeah.
But then going forward to here, everybody at Stryker knew everybody at Fright Rags and spoke highly of them, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's just
we have one.
Again, we can't ask for. Our goal has just been to get this property out of our hands and into the hands of other other entities, other organizations, so that they can work in their area of expertise and forward this film, and to have that kind of group of people, the people at Fright Rags, the people at Stryker Entertainment, the people that come on, the people at Criterion Janus Films is
Well, we need to also mention Bottleneck Galleries because
Bottleneck Gallery.
Yep.
yeah, they have just done such a great job. Unfortunately, they have a very sort of strict protocol, and they're selling to a very, very specific audience, and sometimes our fans don't even get a chance. Yes, that poster that represents us on that board is a piece of classic art now. And it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Bottlenecks pounding hard to get the best artists, and Paul Mann was the artist on that one, and they just continue to do that. They continue to make their predictable money, and doing it in, I don't know, just it's that now. Well, to me, it sets the bar, right?
Yeah.
How can we do another poster that's not at least that good,
Right.
or anything?
Right. Right.
It just, that's what you have to live up to,
Yep.
So
and it's also attention to detail. Like,
yeah,
I can't speak enough kind words about Fright Rags and Bottleneck, because they're folks that knock it out of the park literally every time.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jim and I used to say, we would have these meetings where we're wondering what the future is going to be, and things are very rosy, but in a mixed and amongst all that, there's all these legal battles that are being fought, and trying to carve things out, and all we kept saying for years is, all as we need is 10 Fright Rags. If we can get 10 Fright Rags,
right, yeah.
Well, we've got one. Can we get 9 more?
I mean, we think about that every time something crosses our desk. It's like, how can we get folks like Fright Rags and more Fright Rags? They're
right.
Like, not only do they know horror, they know design, and I mean, my closet's full of stuff of theirs that aren't, like, properties I work on. They get it. They're amazing.
So this is the so we've been working with you guys, but this is kind of for a year, but this is kind of the introduction to the fans. That Stryker Entertainment is the licensing arm of Night of the Living Dead, and a few people know it, but this is the big announcement, and expect to see a lot more. I mean, there's a lot that we can't talk about.
Well, the thing, the juicy stuff we never can talk about. Why?
Right.
The stuff that's really going to light up the room.
Right.
Anyway, these make great teases. This is a very good thing. These are good teases. People are going to say, what could they be talking about? I mean, Jesus, yes. So, I don't know. I think it's what's the saying about bedfellows or whatever, I mean, you just, when you can be with people that you trust, and you don't have to think, I didn't kind of like the way he led that meeting.
You're right.
Or did he really have our interest at heart here? Or
used car salesman speak.
Well, look, I could even sum it up when we were. So it's probably about this time last year we first started talking amongst the two companies, and it took until about the end of December that we finally had an agreement in place. And between Gary and I, thinking about all that happened before, and always sizing it up, well, what happened before, and where we are now. Part of the thing was, well, look. We like these guys. All the conversations are really good. Russell finishes a lot of our thoughts for us, like what we were thinking, but he's able to express it better. And so that's a good sign. But we but we said, look, how bad could it be? In 2 years, there's an out if it's
Right,
not
yeah.
working. If they don't like us, we don't like them, or either way, everybody has an out. Now it's hard to even, we're talking about getting into areas of licensing this film that we definitely weren't, us at Image 10 were definitely not even thinking about. And
Yeah.
in some roundabout way, we ended up over there. And again, because it's in the hands of people who have the expertise, when we would come to you guys at Stryker and say, hey, we've been toying around with this idea of this thing came up. It wasn't even our idea. Somebody else said it. And then in a roundabout way, we got here. What do you think of this? And the next thing we know, we're on the phone we're on a conference call with, the right entity that could move that forward.
Right.
So,
oh yeah, no, you guys are stuck with us until you tap out.
Yeah.
You're going to be the ones to call it.
We have to introduce you to the new generation of Image 10 people. We should be starting to make those introductions now. I'm not sure how many more years I have of being in the Nightcast mobile unit. Which, by the way, can you tell? Do you like my lighting in here?
I love it.
There it goes.
It looks great.
I'll tell you, they designed these vehicles for everything. You can do just about anything in them now. But anyway,
Doc Dredd is asking Gary, how often are you checking in your rearview mirror for ghouls?
Ghouls don't scare me. I have the potion. I'm not at all threatened by ghouls.
What they don't know is if you did encounter any ghouls, you will put them to work. First, you'll find out what scenes they were in, because Vulo's going to ask you that. So, but then you would put them to work.
By that reminds me, I owe John some information on a couple of characters.
Oh, really? But, just some information? I mean, I
only have so much compared to him.
The velocity of the emails that he sends back and forth are pretty incredible. But
So I know we're getting close here. Are there any questions back in the control room? Anything that we should try to be answering for these people?
I've been checking the comments. There really haven't been questions. A lot of suggestions. Funko Pops. We need figures.
Funko
Hot
Pops.
Wheels, car replicas.
Get on it.
Film, both in color and black and white.
I want to make notes.
And I want a set of licensed pre-cut boards with nail holes for that quick boarding up. I need to do when unwanted visitors or relatives come unannounced to visit.
You could just do it yourself. You put it right up to the window. No fuss and no muss.
I mean, you have to have the ironing board. Like how Ben just made great use of that ironing board. He didn't bother to iron any clothes, but it kept the ghouls out, I guess. I don't know how to answer that. That seems to be a pretty big ask.
I'll get on it.
Well, we need to have room to grow, so
yeah, maybe it's a Home Depot tie.
Home Depot line of tools.
Oh, me. Well,
Will Phelps is saying, "You build it, we will buy it." So, I'm surprised nobody's asked for the prefab, farmhouse.
Oh. Could you imagine? Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like the Fisher Price Little People's line has been blown up. That would be the funniest Little People's line ever. That would be, but they're all black and white. It's not even color.
I think a call might need to be made. Well, that's but I'll just tell one little tale. One of the things when we were first getting started, we thought we needed a publicist. We still think we need a publicist. And every time I ask all my friends who have publicists, who are good publicists, they say there are none. But I talked to this really very, very heavyweight, top New York publicist. And we had about an hour-long conversation. And it just at the time, the first thing she asks is, well, what's your promotion budget? And I'm going, at least $25.
Yeah.
And she really couldn't take us on as a client because we couldn't afford her. But she said to me, she said, this is so unfortunate because do you realize how many companies have absolutely nothing to say? And she said, you're just, every time you mention something, I see another, promotional ability or another publicity ability to do it. And that's because, the brand is alive.
Yeah.
It's not dead, as
No pun
everybody might
intended.
want to keep saying. It's very much alive. And I think that we finally turned a corner on getting it into the hands of people who are going to actually treat it the way it has to be treated, and the rest is going to be history. It's not going away. We told you, were talking earlier about the sort of the brand identity. I've nicknamed it the Kleenex of horror. Who doesn't know the name Night of the Living Dead? I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably a handful of people, but yeah, so you're starting with that. That's everybody is trying to get up to that point, and we're already starting with that point. But it's also, how do you read, jig it, and how do you? Jim and I were doing a Q&A at Living Dead Weekend, and there was a guy that just said, you got to get younger audiences. Well, duh, we know that. It's the only way it's going to keep things alive. But that's a very difficult thing to do with a 56-year-old film sometimes. It's not like you can go and advertise it to a TikTok crowd and all of a sudden get, the whole TikTok world say they're coming to get you, Barbara. Although that's something we might have to try. There's some way. There's a couple, oh, they're dead, they're all messed up. That might be a good one for the TikTok crowd.
But when the way we answered that question, if I remember correctly, is that well, there's only Image 10 can't make another film, at least not something based on 1968. We don't have the rights for that. Those rights reside with somebody else, and so unless you're going to make something new for a new audience, we're stuck with the this 55-year-old property, and 56 years this year. So it's just again maintaining that the integrity of it, and then here we are later, after that Q&A, we are actually making headway into this area where possibly something new can be done with it. So
yep.
So look, I've always said about Night of the Living Dead, and especially because of the legal problems, that it's important to stick with it. It's important to have patience and be persistent, and eventually be the last one standing. That's how you get somewhere. But at the same time, you just can't be doing the same things over and over. It has to be moving ahead. So you want to combine the persistence and the hanging in there attitude with, we have to go ahead, and that all came out of wanting to move ahead. Being handed the situation that Gary and I certainly didn't set it up that way, but that's what we were handed. That Image 10, if Hollywood was to come knocking and say, we want to make a big budget Night of the Living Dead, we can't, we don't have the rights to do that. So at least right now. So it requires, okay, so how do you move ahead from that? And it's one of the things that we think about.
Well, do you think we did it? Do you think we actually kept this to an hour and pretty much got all the
Yep.
information out we wanted to get out? We should be
one serious question from I think it was Dwayne. He was asking, no, where am I? Basically, can we give some kind of schedule, which we can. As we've said, Stryker is Image 10 has been working.
I'm
with
sorry,
Stryker
Jim.
almost a
Say
year.
that again. Can we?
He's asking, like,
question?
well, without giving anything away, when can everybody expect something to be happening? So basically,
2025. I would say 2025 is going to be a big year.
Yeah, lots
of stuff is going to be out in 2025.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you can make it any more direct without giving anything away. Everything's baking in the oven right now.
Yeah. So as we some things have to put in the oven, but they're being prepped for the oven. But basically, to give everybody the timeline, we've been in talks with Stryker since around this time, or maybe fall of last year. We officially began working together in beginning of 2024, and we're now 8 months into 2024, and several, as was mentioned, several large licenses or prominent licenses have been signed. Things that we weren't even expecting here at Image 10, or the direction we weren't expecting to go in that direction with a license. And
we didn't really have an expectation, though, honestly.
We know people are.
We knew that something was going to happen.
People are mentioning the big ones. People are, and the big ones are on our radar too. We don't necessarily say, yeah, this is definitely something that we want or whatever. But as administrators of this property, you have to investigate everything. Is this the right thing, or is this the right thing to go forward with? But even in that environment, being aware of what's out there, we've still been somewhat surprised, so there's several big
pleasantly
licenses.
Surprised.
There's several big licenses, from prominent companies. That's all a done deal, and it's moving ahead. And I would expect the end of this year. From now until the end of the year, they're going to start working on things, and as they announce things, whenever they're comfortable with announcing, it'll be announced to everybody.
That kind of, and maybe Austin, you could talk just a tiny bit more about it, but that's you really got to let it be that way. You have to let them kind of tease these things at their own rate, in the way they're accustomed to doing it, and in the places that they're accustomed to doing it. And so we keep look, we had to sit on our hands for almost a year with MoMA before we could even mention that restoration was going to happen. That was one of the toughest things of all,
Oh yeah.
And then after that, the Blu-ray,
right.
We knew that a Blu-ray was we had worked on it, but it wasn't announced, and you have to allow the licensees to to do for their process to take place, because they have
not to be too much baseball, but there are timelines. So as much as I want to get stuff right out, tooling and all that stuff has to be taken into account, and we want to do the brand right, you know what I mean? So if someone sends something in that's lackluster, we're gonna have them revise it, and we're gonna have something that we don't want to let the fans down, because that's truly the bummer, you know what I mean? If we force something into market and the fans hate it, it's egg on our face, and we don't want that.
Well, you spent equity. That's the way.
Yep.
You've squandered equity.
Yep.
You have this build, and then you put a bad product out. well, shame on you, you
Yep.
know. And so I think that's true to all things, you know. Um, if it's not right, it can't go out.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
sometimes that causes delays. Sometimes that, you know, we have a situation like that going on
Yeah.
right now where something is going to come out and it's going to be really, really good, but it can't be really, really good until it's properly done,
Yep.
you know? And so you can't get out ahead of yourself and, you know, you can tease things properly, but
Sure.
it has to come, it has to come from the manufacturer, you
Yeah.
know, they're the ones, um, because we don't yet know what they're going to do. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
it hasn't been presented. Just run down kind of very quickly what the approval
Sure.
process is.
I mean,
How
sure. Very quickly, someone will send in a concept, and that's kind of like your first touchstone of, do these folks get it? You know what I mean? You look and you make sure that like Ben looks like Ben, Barbara looks like Barbara. You
oh,
gotta
that
go down
matters.
that list. But it's really someone submitting. You know, the guys look at it, we make revisions, and then they start making the actual product. So that's when, like, once the concept is approved, that's when kind of the whole machine starts. And you know, we make backstops so that there's going to be a sample that comes out, but we still get to look at it, and if there's any final tweaks we need to make, that's when we do it. And then it's all full steam ahead.
Off to the printer, as they say.
Yep. Off to the races.
Well, so I mean, so it's not like some sort of a very heavy intellectual system. It's all based on the needs. You have to
Yep.
first know what the thing is going to look like,
Yeah.
you know, and once that gets approved, then you got to figure out how you're going to make that.
Yep.
And see samples of what it actually looks like when it comes
making
out
sure the
of,
execution is
yeah,
as good as we saw. Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of in a nutshell what this show is all about. You know, now we get these contracts, and we, you know, Jim and I have always taken the road that we don't know the manufacturer's clients. You know, that has to be left up to them. Basically, all we can
Sure.
do is keep them out of trouble and keep them out of things, places that, you know, our fans at least they're not going to be happy with it. And
Yeah.
you know, and
that's the true litmus test. Like, did we do a good job? The fans are the judge. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how nice we think it is. Fans
it's
are the
all about
ultimate
sales in the end, you know.
Well, not even that, but like, you don't want to, if you put
Well,
something out and like the fans hate it, it's like, sorry. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, that one might have been the bad decision.
when somebody said, and I'm probably like totally wrong, they're still probably like killing it, but when somebody said, you know, the pops, you know, it's like, aren't we done with those yet? I mean, is that the Funko Pops? Are they still like? I can't say a
I
word.
can't speak on that. What are you trying to do to me?
I'm thinking it's you turn that around. The Funko Pops aren't done with everybody else yet.
That is true. I mean,
right. Exactly.
They're still huge. You know what I mean? Like, fans still love them. And like, when you know them, you see them, kind of a thing. And like,
and you know what? We would probably talk to them.
They would make great stuff. Like, it would look so good. Especially if we did them black and white. Like, that would be so fun.
Yeah, we could.
Well,
I think it's safe to tell everybody that Funko is not one of the licenses that we're talking about. So,
yet.
You know, yeah. Well, again, you know, I started this off by saying, you know, in all our working with everybody on this, you know, about this film, My position has always been this is the greatest, at least the greatest American movie ever made. And now everybody's coming around to my way of thinking. So it's the same with the merchandising.
Oh yeah.
You just try to get everybody to come around to how you think about it. But
Yeah.
we could, going back to the question, we could safely say, 2025. You're going to the start of 2025. I'm sure a lot of this stuff's going to be announced. But based on the schedules that we've seen as they start getting into it, it's up to the manufacturer. They may decide to announce some of this stuff a little bit earlier. So as soon as it's announced, it'll get out there to everybody. I had a question for you, Austin. And actually, the same question was asked by Matt Orsman, who's watching. Are those vinyl records behind you?
They're vinyl records, yes. It's a bit of a mess. There's a lot of them.
Oh no, well, you can't see my
all
room.
vinyls.
You can't see my room with the records all over the floor, but yours are at least.
Why do you think I broadcast from my truck?
Yeah. But anything good in there that we should know about?
I mean, there's quite a lot here, so I'm sure there's something you'll like.
Do you have the waxwork?
Oh,
release?
I don't have that.
Oh my God!
I don't like that on the.
Who let this guy in here?
We maybe. I don't know. Is that?
I'll see myself out.
Is that?
He needed to do this from the other side of the room.
By the way,
we wouldn't ask about the records.
By the way, Austin, you will receive one.
Yes.
Okay, it's coming your way.
Added to the collection.
Yeah, I got to figure out how to ship it and not have it crushed by the time it gets to you, but have to put it in a big box. But in my cleanup of my place, I actually came across, we have several copies of it. It's a gorgeous, it's just another, we
Waxworks folks are great too.
Yeah, we didn't mention Waxworks, and I hope that the ones we didn't mention won't get mad. But yes, Waxworks was right on it in the early stages too, and they did a wonderful job with it. And I think we can say that there's about to be a re-release.
Yeah, they've announced it on there, or they've teased it, but everybody knows it's Night of the Living Dead. And I think that happens this month. But they're also very similar to Bottleneck. Waxwork is very quick with the promo. It's like bam, it's there, and it's the next day it's available to either pre-order or get it. This is a direct repress of the previous soundtrack, which is I guess like almost 6 years old now. I think it was 2018 or 2019 that it came out.
We were talking to him. We were talking to him as a matter of fact at the premiere,
the MoMA premiere before the Blu-ray
premiere. That was where the early talks. So all right, let's wrap it up. I know Austin's got to get out of here. He's got to. We don't want to make him late for whatever he's doing.
You're all good. No, this has been fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, you'll come back. This
sure.
is well.
Yeah, I'd love to.
When you can come back when you have something to say.
When we got some updates.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Anytime you guys want to have me, I'd love to come. This has been great.
Excellent.
Great.
We don't have anything. We don't have any send-off piece. We have an intro piece, but we don't have an exit piece.
We can play the intro piece backwards.
All right, let's try to do a 3-person harmony saying goodbye. I'm just kidding.
I don't think
you,
not without
Larry Curly and
rehearsal.
Right? All right, thanks, y'all.
See you.
All right, thanks everyone.
It's been a pleasure. Great. This was a great first comeback. I'm really happy with it.
And we'll be back.
Stay tuned. We'll do
in
more.
2 weeks.
Adios.